Sports Radio 1140, The Fan.
Talkin Money.
Yeah, I get it, you're an outcast. Always under attack, always coming in last. Bringing up the past, no one owes you anything. I think you need a shotgun blast, a kick in the ass. So paranoid, watch your back.
Let's get back to action with Talkin Money and your host, Jeff Tarbell.
Right. How are you doing?
Deep thought going on here with all this asset protection.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff going on here. 339-1140 if you want to jump in. Get a question in for Jeff Burton. You can text us at 441140. We did get a quiz winner. The question was, somebody spent almost $3.5 million with Mr. Warren Buffett.
Yes.
And what did they get for their...
They had lunch with him.
They had lunch.
Yes.
What a hell of a salad, man. $3.5 million. So.
$3.5 million to have lunch. It did go to charity. Charity was Glide, which is an anti-poverty group in San Francisco. His deceased wife's favorite charity.
Okay. Wow. That's if you can spend $3.5 million for lunch, things are going. You might need some asset protection.
Yes.
Or you might need to be protected from yourself at that point.
Right. You might need a kick in the asset if you're spending that kind of money. I just was looking at this article I tore out there. U.S. Household assets and the share of net worth for the first time in the last 10 years, actually maybe even more because the thing cuts off there. The share of household assets or net worth, real estate is now less than equities in terms of net worth for a house, which means you've got less equity in your house than you have in other investments. So that's the first time in a long time. Homeowners' equity in real estate as a share of the total value is about 40% equity in the house. So we've figured out a way that all of our assets are not buried in our home anymore, which is probably good. I mean, at some point in time, it was almost twice as much equity in your house as it was in 2003 as you had in other sorts of assets. So I'm a big believer in spreading whatever you have, spreading the risk around a little bit so it's not tied up in one potential pitfall or asset. You look like you're going to say something there.
Yeah, I was going to say that as we're having the asset protection talk, if we're talking about tax-deferred accounts, which is what most of these people build up their other assets in, those generally have a lot of asset protection, more than almost anything anybody can do, barring certain types of actions such as drunk driving accidents and so forth. Those IRAs are protected from creditors.
I always say if OJ can kill his family and still keep his money, that's one hell of a program he was under, because he was able to keep. But that was it pension money or something else? So
he had pension money. He also bought a really expensive house in Florida, which the Florida system basically provides a significant amount of asset protection to homeowners out there. You'll notice that it's gotten a little bit less protected since the O.J. Simpson trial, but you'll notice that the heads of various companies, almost all the Fortune 500s, own a house out in Florida.
Yep. Well, we were down in Fort Lauderdale, what they call the Eastern or Western Riviera, and I actually, when I came back from that cruise, that was the same cruise that I went to the Caymans on, and I came back and you go on this little tour boat through Fort Lauderdale, and it was, I mean, the who's who of corporate America everywhere from Wendy's to the Sunglass Hut lady to you name it, they had a house there. Or a big, huge yacht or something else too. And maybe they didn't even live there, but they had a lot of money buried in there. So that makes a lot of sense. And Florida makes it tougher to get your money out of there.
Very difficult to get a hold of your primary house in Florida.
So you mentioned during one of the breaks we were talking about the term fraudulent transfer, and so what does that mean? I mean, so if I'm worried about somebody suing me and I transfer my money into some sort of protection, that's I'm committing fraud.
If you take an action that's designed to hinder or frustrate or take away assets from an existing creditor, such as if you've got a creditor out there that whether that's someone who's suing you and there's a lawsuit coming at you, or your credit card company, whatever you want to talk about, if that creditor is an existing creditor that's out there and you do something that's intentionally designed to stop that creditor from being able to access those assets or be able to get them back, that is fraud essentially, and there's a multi-point test to that, but it's called a fraudulent transfer. So when you're looking at asset protection, one of the most important things you have to do is say, okay, what am I protecting myself from? If I'm doing this to protect myself from the person who I've already made a guarantee to, who I've already got a loan sitting out there that's about to come after me, and I take those assets and I hide them. You mentioned a Cayman account or some similar situation. That is fraud, and there will be criminal consequences for doing that. It hasn't been prosecuted as much as it should be, but frankly, it's getting more serious, and it's always been on the books for a long time. And I'm starting to see the DAs taking this more seriously than they used to. That being said, if what you're doing is designed to basically protect yourself against something that is unexpected or a potential risk that could come down the line, then that generally is not a fraudulent transfer. And part of my job as an attorney is to make sure that what we're looking at is doing it in such a way that is not going to expose that individual to a fraud situation, and I can't assist and help. I'm often telling people, I'm sorry, I really can't help you with this situation, because you're pretty much already in the situation where you've got 3 lawsuits, everybody's coming after all your assets. You need to be in the bankruptcy courts. You shouldn't be talking to me about asset protection.
So is there such a thing anymore that you mentioned during the break, a few years back, people in the mortgage business, trying to quickly move assets out of out of their names or into other places, and rightfully or wrong way. But there was a tremendous volume of uncertainty, and what is out there, what is the impact on different individuals and businesses. So, I mean, can you really? So let's say I've got $1 million. Can I go into the Caymans or into one of these islands, or you even mentioned Alaska and some other places that have these places where you can harbor the money? Can I put it there and nobody in the world will see it? Is that how it works? And so nobody knows that I have $1 million there? It seems like I'd have to show up with like gold coins or something if I was going to do that.
So is your question, can it be done? The answer is probably. I wouldn't know exactly how to do it, but you're breaking so many laws. You're not only avoiding those creditors, you're avoiding the IRS and taxing authorities. You're avoiding various other individuals.
How am I avoiding? I'm talking about money I've already paid taxes on it. It's my money. So instead of sitting at River City Bank with a statement that says $1 million, or instead of sitting in gold coins and buried in my backyard, I move it to there. How am I breaking the law? It's my money. I'm not hiding any taxes. I'm just trying to. I don't want the whole world looking down my shorts. I want to see what's going on here.
That's actually kind of an interesting question. The federal government historically has done this, but they've gotten a lot more aggressive under our current presidential administration. There's a significant amount of reporting requirements on any foreign asset that you might hold or own. So if you have a bank account in the Caymans, you are required to report that bank account on your tax return at the end of the year. Now,
wait a minute. I don't wait. I don't report. I don't give them any. I don't give my other statements to anybody.
Everything in the States, when you go and you sign up for that bank account, you notice you have to give the Social Security number and everything else. The banks are reporting on your behalf.
So they're doing it for me.
Yes.
Okay.
When you deal with foreign assets, you have a personal reporting requirement. Second thing that's come up recently is the federal government has basically been requiring foreign banks, if they want to do any business or have any interaction with us, to turn over that information as well. A few years ago, UBS, United Bank of Switzerland, got hit with a major issue. The federal government also has whistleblower programs internally within them, that if somebody turns in a foreign account holder or someone has these assets and not informing the taxing authorities about, they will pay essentially a stipend as to a percentage of the amount of the recovery that they receive from these accounts. So somebody, well, we don't know this for sure. We believe somebody within UBS turned over a bunch of Swiss bank account holders that were not reporting themselves on the federal government. The feds went and arrested all the UBS executives here in the United States and said, we're going to prosecute you guys here in the States unless you tell us who the other bank account owners are. After a while, they turned over a bunch of names. Nobody really knows how many names they turned over or who they turned over. They went back. They got deported back to Switzerland, where the Swiss banking authorities immediately hit them for breaking Swiss banking laws. But regardless,
and the guy didn't get a whistleblower fee either. I think I saw him on TV. I don't think he got any money at all.
Right. And while that occurred, the federal government did something very intelligent. I didn't think they realized quite the reaction they were going to get. They created something called the OVDI program, or Offshore Voluntary Disclosure Initiative, where they told everybody, look, you have so much time to come and report these foreign assets you haven't told us about and the foreign income, and you'll pay a big penalty for doing so, but we won't prosecute you criminally for not reporting foreign assets. They had a huge turnout, much larger than they expected. They extended this now twice, and they're extending it a third time as of about 2 weeks ago. They announced at the beginning of the year. They finally put out the documents for OVDI program. So people are actually repatriating money from foreign assets into the States. I'm actually seeing both sides of things. I'm seeing people repatriating, bringing money back into the States, and as you mentioned, people bring assets out. Well, if you've got to report it to the federal government, what good is having a foreign account? A few things. The first thing that foreign account does is generally it has a lot of asset protection built into it. Most of these countries that you move assets into, whether it's the Caymans, Nevas, Channel Islands, Cook Islands, they have protection built in that's designed to evade some future creditor, somebody coming out after those assets. So that's one of the major benefits.
So even if everybody knows you have the money there,
they can't get a hold of it.
Okay. We got to. I think we're up for one more break, so we'll come back on that too. We got any more quiz questions? Are you done?
Yeah,
there?
we do.
Okay.
We have a
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 44-1140. And when we do come back, we'll start talking about, how much money before you want to move your stuff overseas. How much money can you just do your own trust here? What is considered. Because there's some cost with doing these things. You'll learn that, if you got $50,000, moving $50,000 to the Caymans is going to cost you $50,000 to move to the Caymans. That may not be the best deal, but if you've got more than that, we could talk about. There's things you can do within the states here too to protect your assets. So go ahead, John.
So I'm guessing these folks on this list I have. The question is, big boosters? What are some of the large donations to college athletics?
Okay.
So
I know, like the guy, the Oakley guy, or he does a lot of money, right?
There's a couple of them.
Okay.
But Oklahoma State University received a large amount of money, and who gave it? Who gives it to them? Who's the guy? What's his name?
How much did he give?
$165 million.
Ooh, 165. So who was the number one benefactor to Oklahoma State? I think he's also the guy that donated the Reagan Museum to put the Air Force One in the Reagan Museum. I think his name is on that building also. So 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140, or you can text us at 44-1140. Who's the number one college athletic donor and he goes for Oklahoma? Is that
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. This is Talkin' Money. We'll be
right back, Jack.